Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to do something a little bit different. We aren't just looking at, a news story or a scientific breakthrough. We are unpacking a concept that might just change the way you look at the device in your pocket.
Or the computer in front of you.
Exactly.
Mm.
And honestly, the entire structure of the global economy, we're working with a fascinating, really dense stack of research and insights from the Moneycopy channel.
Yeah, this one was a good one.
Specifically, a script they put together titled The Secret You Don't Know, We Already Live in a Digital Dollar Colony.
It's a provocative title, isn't it? Colony. I mean, that's a loaded word.
It really is.
It conjures up images of, ships and flags and maps being redrawn, all that historical baggage.
Right.
But once you actually get into the logic provided in the source text, it's a surprisingly grounded, if maybe a little unsettling, economic argument.
Unsettling is a good word for it.
It's about the invisible lines that map our world today, not the ones you see in an atlas.
It really is. And to kick things off, I want to try a little experiment that the source material suggests. It's kind of a sanity check.
A way to ground us.
A way to ground us in the physical reality before we go completely digital. So if you're listening to this, whether you're on a commute, at the gym, maybe washing dishes, I want you to mentally, or literally if you can, reach into your back pocket or your purse and check your physical wallet.
Right, the leather one.
Yeah.
Or maybe that Velcro one if you're feeling nostalgic. The
Ah.
thing that used to be the absolute center of your gravity when you left the house. You do the check, right? Phone, keys, wallet.
Exactly. Open it up. What do you see?
If you are like most people today, probably. Well, nothing. Maybe some dust.
A lint ball?
A punched card for a coffee shop that went out of business 3 years ago. Maybe a single bill that you keep just in case.
For that emergency that never seems to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
The cash-only apocalypse we're all preparing for.
I actually checked mine this morning in preparation for this. I have driver's license, a credit card, my health insurance card, and I think it's a $5 bill that's been in there since last Christmas. It felt, I don't know, light. Almost useless.
Exactly. The source makes this point really early on to establish a baseline. For so many of us, the physical wallet is becoming a relic.
Yeah.
It's a vestigial organ of our financial lives.
Sure.
We carry it out of habit, not real necessity. It's like the appendix of personal finance.
The appendix of personal finance, I like that. But here's the contrast the source draws, and this is the hook that really, really grabbed me. Think about your morning routine.
Okay.
Before you even got out of bed, before your feet touched the floor,
Okay.
what did you do?
Reached for the phone. It's almost a reflex action now, isn't it? The alarm goes off, the hand moves.
It is. I reached for the phone. I turned off the alarm, which is an app. I checked the weather, another app. I checked my email. That's Google.
Yeah.
Then, while I was brushing my teeth, I was listening to a podcast on YouTube Premium. I realized we were out of coffee filters, so I just tapped the Amazon app and ordered them for same-day delivery.
And did you happen to check what was trending on Netflix for later tonight?
I did.
Or scroll through Instagram to see what your friends did last night?
Guilty on all counts.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably spent money or at least utilized a paid service 3 or 4 times before it even had my caffeine.
Right.
I interacted with the economy more in those first 15 minutes than my grandfather probably did in a whole week.
And that is the absolute core premise we're diving into today. The source argues that while the physical paper dollar, the thing with George Washington on it.
Thing crumbling in your back pocket.
Exactly. While that might be invisible in your daily life, the dollar hegemony has not disappeared. In fact, it's stronger than ever.
It's just shed its physical skin.
It's gone ghost mode, as you said. It's become atmospheric. In a way, yes. The source suggests we've transitioned into what it calls a digital subscription empire.
A digital subscription empire.
We're no longer just consumers buying products off a shelf. We are effectively citizens of a digital dollar economy.
Right.
And this economy, it doesn't rely on physical borders or, passport control. It relies entirely on digital infrastructure.
So the argument is that we are living in a digital colony. That is a pretty heavy metaphor.
It is.
When I hear colony, I think of the British Empire, tea taxes, resource extraction. Is that the parallel they're actually trying to draw? Are we the colonists?
It is, and we need to unpack it carefully because it's the structural backbone of this entire deep dive. The mission today is to really analyze this specific worldview presented by Moneycopy.
Okay.
They argue that this isn't just about technology or having cool gadgets. This is about a massive fundamental transfer of wealth. It's a shift in how the global economy functions,
It's about who owns the ground we walk on.
or rather the servers we surf on.
Right. And the stakes are high.
Extremely high. The source material frames this as a secret that most people don't know, or maybe more accurately, a reality they live in but don't consciously see.
So the aha moment we are looking for today.
The aha moment is understanding why, even as you sleep or as infrastructure is being built in developing nations halfway across the world, the digital dollar is expanding its territory constantly.
And effectively, if you aren't positioned correctly, and I guess we'll get to what that means later regarding investments, you're just a subject in this empire. You're the one paying the taxes,
Right.
In the form of subscriptions and your attention.
Precisely. You are the resource being harvested. Your time, your attention, your data, that is the raw material of this new empire.
Okay, that's a little ominous. But let's step back and look at the architecture of this empire. We need to
Yeah.
define our terms because digital dollar is a buzzy phrase.
It really is.
When the source talks about the digital dollar, I immediately think of Bitcoin, or maybe those central bank digital currencies, the CBDCs.
The ones that both conspiracy theorists and economists are always talking about.
Exactly. Is that what we are looking at? Is this about the Fed going crypto?
No, and that is a crucial distinction the source makes right at the top. This is not about cryptocurrency.
Okay.
It is not about the Fed issuing some digital coin to track all your purchases. When the source says digital dollar, it's referring to the absolute dominance of American tech platforms that facilitate our daily economic lives.
So it's not the currency of exchange in the sense of a token, but the currency of presence, of being online.
It's the currency of the ecosystem. Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. If you are living your life through these platforms, you're transacting in the digital dollar economy, regardless of whether you're paying in yen, euros, pesos, or won.
So the currency itself doesn't matter.
The currency is irrelevant. The source uses that metaphor of a colony to describe our relationship with these platforms. In a historical colony, what happens? Resources flow from the periphery back to the central power.
Right. You take the cotton from the colony, you send it to the empire, they make the shirt, and then they sell it back to you.
And the value add happens in the empire.
Yes.
Exactly. And in this digital colony, what's the resource? It's not cotton. It's not spices.
It's our time, our data.
Our time, our data, and our subscription fees. That's the cotton. They flow from us, the periphery users, whether we're in London, Seoul, or Rio, back to the platform owners in the center.
Central power.
We are living in a digital territory where our economic activities ultimately feed back to a central power, which the source identifies very, very specifically.
The new rulers, the emperors, if you will.
The new rulers, that's right.
The source calls them the Magnificent Seven.
It sounds like a Western movie.
It does. But we're not talking about cowboys. We're talking about tech giants here.
We are. And it's not just a catchy name. These 7 companies effectively represent the modern stock market and the modern internet. The source lists them specifically.
Let's hear them.
Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, which, owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp.
Right, the whole suite.
NVIDIA and Tesla.
These are the heavy hitters, no question. But I want to push on this a bit. Why call them platforms instead of just companies?
That is a great question.
I mean, I buy a phone from Apple. That feels like a product. I buy a car from Tesla. That's a product. Why is the distinction of platform so important to this whole colony theory?
It's a fantastic question, and it really gets to the absolute heart of the matter. Think about the net imagery described in the source. There's a graphic they describe showing all these logos connecting users worldwide, like a spider's web.
Right.
A platform isn't just a product you buy once. It's a stage upon which you live your life.
Okay, let's break that down. A stage. What do you mean?
If you buy a toaster, you toast bread, and that's the end of the transaction. You don't have a continuing relationship with the toaster company every single day.
The toaster doesn't suggest what kind of bread I should buy.
Exactly. The toaster doesn't track when you're hungry. But you don't just buy an iPhone. You live inside the iOS ecosystem. You subscribe to iCloud. You use Apple Pay. You download apps from their store when they take a 30% cut. It's not a single purchase. It's an ongoing residency.
Right. And same with Google. I don't buy Google. I use Google to navigate the world. I use maps to get where I'm going. I use search to know what I'm doing.
Exactly. You are navigating the internet through their lens. A platform is infrastructure. It's like the roads, the water pipes, and the electric grid all rolled into one.
And the source argues that these companies have effectively monopolized.
What? The time and attention of people globally? They aren't just selling widgets anymore. They are governing the infrastructure of the modern world.
It's actually hard to do anything online without touching one of these 7 entities, even if I try to avoid them. Let's say I hate Facebook. I don't have an account,
Okay.
but I'm still probably messaging people who are on WhatsApp, which Meta owns,
Of course. Or you're visiting websites that use Google Analytics to track their traffic.
which is pretty much every website.
Or you're watching Netflix, which runs on Amazon Web Services.
Wait, let's pause on that. Netflix runs on Amazon. They're competitors, aren't they? With Prime Video.
They are, but that's the genius and the scale of the platform model. A huge chunk of the internet, and I mean massive runs on Amazon servers. AWS is the invisible backbone of the web.
So that's the invisible empire part.
That's it. Even if you think you aren't using Amazon because you didn't order a package today, your data is likely flowing through their servers. If you're using Zoom or Netflix or thousands of other services, you are quite literally walking on their roads.
So whether I'm in Seoul or London or New York or barely connected in a remote village, if I am online, I am almost certainly on their turf.
That's the argument. And that brings us to the next big piece, the mechanism of how this empire grows. This was the part of the source material that I found particularly compelling from a macroeconomic perspective. It shifts from just observing the situation to explaining the physics of it.
The global equation.
Yes. The source provides a specific formula, and it's shockingly simple. Increase in internet access population, expansion of the digital dollar economy.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Almost. Almost too simple. More internet equals more America. Let's break that down.
Okay.
Because usually when we think of the U.S. economy growing, we think of, I don't know, selling more Fords in Ohio or exporting more wheat or airplanes. But this is global.
Right. And the source uses the example of the developing world to illustrate this. This is where the colony aspect becomes really vivid. Think about a youth in Africa, let's say in Lagos or Nairobi, buying their first smartphone.
Okay.
Or the growing middle class in India coming online for the very first time.
Right. So a kid in Nairobi buys a phone. Now, chances are that phone isn't an iPhone. It's probably a cheaper Android device. Maybe it's made by a Chinese manufacturer like Tecno or Xiaomi, or maybe a Samsung from Korea.
Right. And this is where people get confused. They think, oh, China made the phone, so China wins. Or Korea made the phone, so Korea wins. But let's trace the chain of events outlined in the source.
Okay, what happened?
They buy the phone. What's the very first thing they do?
Turn it on. Connect to Wi-Fi or 4G.
And then they likely want to search for information. They want to find something,
So they use Google.
which is American. Then they want to connect with friends and family.
That's Meta, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram.
All American. They start seeing ads on those platforms
And that's revenue flowing directly back to the U.S.
directly. Then they use services that require massive computing power to process their requests, to stream their videos.
And those servers are likely running on NVIDIA chips.
Exactly. So even if the phone itself, the piece of plastic and glass in their hand, is manufactured by a non-U.S. company, the ecosystem it accesses is the digital dollar territory. The hardware is just the passport.
It's like the phone is just a portal, and the country they are entering is this digital empire.
That is a great way to put it. The source emphasizes that this expansion happens at light speed. As soon as someone connects to the grid, they voluntarily enter the digital dollar territory.
There's no paperwork.
They don't have to fill out immigration papers, they just log in.
And unlike a physical empire, you don't need boots on the ground. You don't need an army to conquer this territory. You don't need to send in the Marines to install a governor.
You just need a cell tower.
And the users conquer themselves.
They want to be there.
Yeah.
They want the connectivity, they want the entertainment, the information. It's an empire of attraction, not just coercion.
Right.
We line up to buy the shackles, so to speak, because the shackles let us watch 4K video and talk to our friends across the globe.
But this raises a huge question. And the source actually poses this, kind of playing devil's advocate against itself.
It's the obvious one.
Why must it be the United States?
It's the obvious counterargument. The internet is global. There are brilliant people everywhere. Why can't other countries replicate this?
Yeah, why isn't there a European Google or a Pan-African version of Facebook?
Why isn't there a purely South American version of this ecosystem that dominates the world? I mean, you look at China, right? They have their own ecosystem with WeChat and Alibaba and Tencent.
But it stays mostly in China.
It stays mostly in China. It doesn't dominate Europe or South America or Africa. So why is the global default American?
It feels like a monopoly on innovation itself.
The source addresses this with a very powerful concept. It calls it the innovation black hole.
A black hole. That implies a gravitational pull so strong that nothing can escape.
Or in this case, a pull that sucks everything in. The argument is that the United States acts as a gravitational center that sucks in the world's genius and the world's capital.
So it's not just that they have the big companies now, it's that they have the environment that creates the big companies in the first place.
Correct. The source lists a few key drivers of this dominance. First, the platform ecosystem itself. We just talked about it. The existing infrastructure is now so deep, so entrenched, it's almost impossible to replicate.
The network effect.
The ultimate network effect. If you're a brilliant developer in Brazil and you want to build the next great app, do you build it for a local Brazilian operating system that doesn't exist?
No, you build it for the App Store or Google Play, because that's where the billion users are.
Of course. So your brilliance, your innovation, it reinforces the American platform. You are adding value to Apple and Google just by existing and creating.
You're effectively working for them, even if you're an independent entrepreneur.
You're building a new room in their house?
Right, because nobody would use your app if it's not on the main stage. It's like trying to open a store in the middle of a desert versus opening one in the biggest mall in the world. You go to the mall.
You go where the people are. Second, the source highlights trust and stability. And this is crucial and often overlooked in the tech conversation. It points to stable political systems and, very importantly, strong legal protections for property and ideas.
Which implies that in other parts of the world, if you have a billion-dollar idea, you might worry about the government just taking it.
Or the laws changing overnight,
Right.
or corruption eating away all your profits before you even get started.
Right.
In the U.S. system, as the source argues, ideas become capital because they are protected. Your intellectual property is safe. So if you're a genius in a region with political instability, where do you want to go to build your life's work?
You go to Silicon Valley, you go to where the venture capital is, where the legal system is predictable.
You go to the innovation black hole. The source describes this as a place where geniuses congregate. It creates a powerful feedback loop. The best talent goes there.
Which creates the best companies.
Which generates the most capital.
Which then attracts even more of the best talent from around the world.
It's a flywheel that just keeps spinning faster and faster.
And it leaves the rest of the world in the position of being users, or colonists, as the source says, rather than owners. Europe becomes a regulator of tech, right? They pass laws about cookies and privacy, but they aren't creating the platforms themselves.
Right, they're reacting to the empire, not building their own. Other regions become consumers of the services, but the U.S. remains the creator and, crucially, the landlord.
I have to ask the skeptics question. Technology changes, right?
Of course.
I mean, history is full of empires that got lazy and collapsed. We always hear about disruption. What if something new comes along? What if the screen goes away? What if the phone, as we know it, disappears?
It's the Kodak question.
It's the Kodak question. Kodak thought they owned photography, and then digital cameras happened.
Yeah.
Nokia thought they owned phones, and then the iPhone happened.
Yeah.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
You know the story.
Right. The source absolutely anticipates this skepticism. It asks, what if technology changes? And then it systematically refutes the idea that this will topple the empire. In fact, it argues that future tech, specifically AI and robotics, will only reinforce it.
Future-proofing the empire. That seems counterintuitive. Usually, a paradigm shift is what kills the incumbents. It's what killed Blockbuster. It's what killed Sears.
Usually, yes. But the source argues that the Mag 7 have become so big, so foundational, they are no longer just players in the game.
They're the board the game is played on.
Exactly. Let's look at the specific examples the source provides. Take Tesla's robo-taxis.
Okay, autonomous driving. A future where I don't own a car, I just summon one with my phone.
Imagine that world. A future where the roads are covered in autonomous vehicles. You might think, oh, that's a transportation revolution. Maybe the old car companies are in trouble.
Sure.
But the source argues that the underlying platform, the software, the data processing, the vast network managing all those cars, belongs to the U.S. tech giant.
So even if I'm just sitting in a car going to work, I'm riding inside a Tesla platform.
And you're paying for it.
Yeah.
It turns transportation into a subscription service. And think about what's required to make that single car work.
A lot of data.
It needs mapping data. Who has the best? It needs massive processing power. Who has that? It needs advanced chips.
Google, Apple, Tesla, NVIDIA. It's the same list.
It's the same list. Now look at artificial intelligence. That's the big buzzword right now.
It's everything right now.
Everyone is excited about ChatGPT or whatever the new model is. People think this is a revolution. Anyone can build an AI. It feels democratizing.
Right. It feels like a Wild West, a new frontier.
But the source asks a very simple grounding question. Who owns the servers? Who owns the algorithms? Who owns the chips?
The Magnificent Seven. Microsoft owns a huge chunk of OpenAI. Google has DeepMind. Meta has their Llama models. And NVIDIA.
NVIDIA is making all the shovels for this AI gold rush.
They're the only ones selling them, pretty much.
To train a state-of-the-art AI model costs, what, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in compute power? Who has that kind of capital and the server farms to handle it?
Only these giants.
So the source argues that innovation doesn't disrupt the empire. It reinforces it. These new technologies require massive capital and massive compute power, the two things only these giants have in abundance.
So the barrier to entry has become so high that only the existing kings can climb it. Any new innovation just gets absorbed into their structure.
The profits will ultimately return to these platform owners regardless of the specific service interface. Whether you are typing on a keyboard, talking to a smart speaker, or having a robot fold your laundry.
The digital dollar is being generated and sent back to the mothership.
The interface changes, but the landlord remains the same.
That is, well, it's a little terrifying if you feel like you're on the outside looking in. It feels so inevitable. It feels like the game is rigged.
It does. It portrays a sense of inevitability that can feel very disempowering. But this is the exact point where the source pivots.
Okay.
It moves from this high-level, slightly depressing analysis of the digital colony to a very specific, actionable call to action.
Right. It stops being a history lesson or an economic treatise and starts being a strategy guide.
It targets a very specific persona. The source calls them the learner, but what it's really addressing is employees, salary workers, people planning for retirement.
People who are trading time for money. People who have a job, they get a paycheck, and they're just trying to figure out how to not work forever.
Exactly. The source identifies the core problem for this group. You are working hard, trading your finite time for a salary. You get paid for the hours you put in. If you stop working, the money stops coming.
The classic rat race.
And on top of that, you're stressing over stock market fluctuations. You're trying to pick the next winner, trying to outsmart Wall Street.
Trying to guess if Company A is going to beat Company B this quarter. Or checking your portfolio every single day and panicking when it goes down 2%.
The source argues that this is the completely wrong mindset. It says to stop trying to predict the market and start betting on conviction.
Betting on conviction, what does that mean in this context? Betting on the conviction that this empire theory is correct.
Precisely. It means you accept the thesis we've just spent the last half hour discussing. If you believe that we are living in a digital dollar empire, and you believe that empire is expanding every single time someone in a developing nation connects to the internet for the first time,
Right.
then you shouldn't be gambling on penny stocks. You shouldn't be trying to find the next Google. You should be buying the current Google and Apple and Amazon.
Become a shareholder in the colony, not just a subject.
That's it. You change your citizenship. The source proposes what it calls a stress-free solution. It specifically mentions the Big Tech 7 ETF.
An ETF, an exchange-traded fund. For anyone who doesn't know, it's basically a basket of stocks you can buy as one single thing.
Right. Instead of trying to pick, oh, I think Apple will have a good year, but maybe not Tesla, or maybe Meta is in trouble with regulators.
Which is impossible to predict.
It's a full-time job. Instead of doing that, you just buy the bundle. You buy the concept of the platform.
You buy the whole bundle of platform power. So the strategy is to align your financial future with the very entities that control the infrastructure of the world.
Think about it this way. You don't try to bet on which car is going to win the race. You buy the racetrack.
You buy the asphalt.
You buy the asphalt. No matter who drives, no matter who wins or loses on any given day, they all have to drive on your road. You collect the toll.
It's betting on the house. You always hear that in a casino, the house always wins in the long run. This strategy is saying, okay, then buy shares in the casino.
It is. And the source has a very specific angle for retirement accounts, mentioning things like IRP or ISA context, basically any tax-advantaged account where you put money away for the long term.
What's the advice there? Is it just buy and hold?
It's consistent accumulation over time, dollar cost averaging. But the goal, the way they phrase it, is sleeping while your assets grow.
Sleeping, I like the sound of that.
Yep.
A lot more than panicking about the market open.
Who wouldn't? The source emphasizes that because the world breathes within this system, because that kid in India is searching on Google while you are asleep in your bed.
Because someone in Brazil is clicking an Instagram ad while you are having breakfast.
The assets grow automatically. The empire never sleeps, so your money shouldn't either.
You don't need to day trade. You don't need to watch the charts every minute. You just need to own the infrastructure and let the world use it.
It's the ultimate idea of passive income, but on a macro, global scale. You're earning a tiny fraction from billions of people's daily habits.
And there's a very specific psychological piece of advice here, too, which I thought was interesting. It says, don't look at the price, believe in the value.
That is so hard to do. It's easy to say, but hard to do.
It is. When the market dips 10%, your lizard brain, your instinct is to sell. When the news headlines are all saying, tech bubble bursting, you want to run for the hills.
Of course. But the source describes this image of a retiree drinking tea peacefully, just watching the world go by, and contrasts that with the image of a stressed-out day trader staring at flashing red numbers.
A powerful visual.
And the argument is that if you truly understand the value, the inevitability of the digital dollar's expansion, then the daily price fluctuations don't matter as much. You know the empire isn't going anywhere.
It suggests a mindset shift. If the price of your ETF goes down, you don't panic. You think, great, the empire's on sale this week.
I like that perspective. The empire is on sale.
There was one other comparison in the source that really stuck out to me because it felt so direct. The Samsung versus U.S. tech thing.
Yes. The provocative thumbnail concept they mentioned. It asks why one might choose U.S. big tech over their own domestic giants like Samsung to avoid becoming poor.
Ouch. I mean, that is blunt. Don't buy our country's pride and joy if you want to be rich. That's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people.
It is blunt, but it goes right back to the innovation black hole theory. Samsung is a massive, incredibly successful company, and they make fantastic hardware, phones, TVs, chips.
Best in the world in many cases.
Absolutely. But do they own the platform?
No. Their phones run on Android, which is Google. Their laptops run on Windows, which is Microsoft.
Do they own the operating system? Or are they ultimately playing in the digital dollar sandbox?
They're making the shovels, but not for their own gold rush. They're making beautiful, high-tech devices that let you access the empire, but they aren't the empire itself.
Right. They have to compete on hardware features, a slightly better camera this year, a slightly brighter screen, and that is a brutal, low-margin, high-competition game.
Someone can always make a cheaper phone.
Someone can always make a cheaper phone. That is the argument. The source suggests that investing in the empire, the platform owners, is the path to durable wealth, whereas investing in the manufacturers or the peripherals is a much riskier bet because they can always be replaced.
If Apple decides to switch chip suppliers, the supplier dies. Apple survives.
Exactly. If Samsung were to disappear tomorrow, it would be a huge deal, but Google would still run the world's search. The empire would barely notice.
So let's bring this all together. It's been a pretty intense journey through this secret economy. We started with the simple idea that our physical wallets are empty because we've moved to a completely digital economy.
We established that this economy is run by the Magnificent Seven, these platforms that own the core infrastructure. They aren't just companies. They are the net that holds the modern world together.
We look at the mechanism of its growth, how every new internet user in the world, from Africa to Asia, expands this empire effectively by default.
Every smartphone sold is a new citizen being naturalized in the colony.
Right. And we saw why the U.S. acts as this black hole for innovation, making it incredibly difficult for other regions to compete on that platform level, creating kind of winner-takes-all geopolitical scenario.
And finally, we talked about the investment strategy the source proposes. Don't try to beat them, join them.
Buy the ETF, become an owner, and let the global addiction to these platforms fund your retirement.
That is the full synthesis. The source is telling you that you have a choice. You can be a passive subject of the digital dollar, paying your subscriptions, watching the ads, and giving away your time and attention for free.
Which is the default for most people.
Or you can become a shareholder in the digital empire.
It's a shift from being a consumer to being a capitalist, in the truest sense of the word. owning the capital that generates the wealth.
It is. It's about owning the toll booth instead of just being one of the millions of cars paying the toll every day.
I want to leave our listener with a final provocative thought, something the source brings up in its engagement strategy. It asks a question that I think we should all ask ourselves today, especially the next time we mindlessly pick up our phones.
What is that?
It's this. If you look at your own day, which platform do you spend the most time on? Is it the App Store? Is it YouTube? Is it scrolling through Instagram or TikTok? And if you are spending your life there, if you are pouring hours of your finite time into that vessel, why aren't you owning a piece of it?
That is a powerful reframing. It really is. It turns your screen time from a guilty pleasure or a waste of time into a constant reminder of where the value is flowing.
Exactly.
The source leaves us with this final imagery, which I found very compelling, being the master of time.
Meaning what, exactly? Not like a sci-fi thing.
No, not a time traveler. True wealth isn't just a number in a bank account. It's the freedom gained by having the world's biggest platforms working for you while you sleep.
Right.
If you own the platforms, every second you sleep, someone somewhere else in the world is awake and clicking, searching, subscribing, and your net worth is ticking up fraction by fraction. That is mastering time.
While you sleep, the empire grows. The question is, are you growing with it? Or is it just growing at your expense?
That is the question.
This has been a fascinating look into the invisible empire. It definitely makes me want to go check my portfolio and maybe look at my screen time stats with a slightly different perspective.
It puts things in a different light, for sure.
It certainly does. It's a digital world. We're just living in it.
And perhaps investing in it.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.